Okay, so after we finish cluttering everything, I just dropped some more furniture, statics, and some lights. What we want to do is we want to start the nav mesh. So I'm going to start at the very beginning is where I like to do, which is like right here. And then when I do this, I like to uncheck the snap to angle and snap to grid. Make sure that they're unchecked. And also, before we start nav meshing this, I actually have to delete the previous nav mesh, which is right here, because we had copied this from our previous dungeon cell. So we're just gonna grab these pieces and we're just gonna hit delete like that, so all of those pieces are gone. And then we're gonna come back over here to the beginning of the stage. So now on our right mouse button, we're just gonna click that to make a dot and make sure that's it's positioned above the ground, not necessarily in it. It could clip in a little bit, but I like to make sure that it's mostly above the ground. And then usually what I like to do is I like to just set up a bunch of points and then I'll connect them. But in this case, I'll make sure that all of these are selected. I'm gonna hit A, and then after these, I'm gonna select 2 points, and then I'm gonna hold Control, and I'm gonna right click, and it's gonna extend the nav mesh over here. So I'm gonna do it this way because I feel like it's a little bit faster. I feel like it's not as neat, but because this is a cave and the terrain and everything is already weird, I'm just going to do this. And if you want to see through the ground, you can just click on these eye things like this. This one is solid. This one shows only the nav mesh. This one shows the stage and the nav mesh. And this one, kind of like, it doesn't show any transparency. So this is probably like the best one to use, so you can still see the nav mesh and the stage at the same time. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep these going. And I'm just gonna keep holding Control, and I'm just gonna right click as I do this, because this will allow me to cover much more ground much quicker. Oops. And if you see a piece that kind of like goes in and it doesn't work the way you want to, you could just grab the point like this and then just drag it into place. Alright, so now I'm gonna come over here, and sometimes when I do hold Control to make an to extend the nav mesh a little bit, it just doesn't work. If it doesn't, just reselect your pieces and try it again. So here we go. I'm gonna come over here, and I'm just gonna show you a little bit of how I get around some of the obstacles I place. I always like to place the obstacles first. This way you know what to nav mesh around. And I actually did not realize that this Brahmin thing was in the doorway. So I'm going to move this over here slightly like that. Is my thing gonna crash? Alright, it's not. You could go to nav mesh right here, finalize cell nav meshes, and then save. I always do that every once in a while just to make sure that I don't lose my progress. So I'm going to open this up again. We're going to select our 2 points right here, and then I'm just going to click there, extend it a bit more. And like when you get comfortable, you'll start being able to like nav mesh these like way faster. But because it's a cave, you know, you got to be careful because the levels are different, the level of the floor and stuff, so you might have to make some adjustments, as opposed to like an office where like the ground is pretty much the same height. So I'm gonna bring this up against the wall right here. Like I could just grab all 4 corners of this room and nav mesh it like that, but it would be sloppy and then you'd have like NPCs, like if you're in combat and they're like trying to run towards you or run away from you, they will like run into this wall completely ignoring that it's there. So if I like nav mesh around the door or around this wall, as opposed to just making it go through it, it will be much more better once NPCs start navigating through here. So, for example, I don't want my NPC to be running through this sandbag if, like, let's say I walk in the cave and the enemy NPC sees me. I don't want them to try to run through the sandbag to try to get me. I want them to run around the sandbag to try to get me. So I'm just going to make it so that the nav mesh, and it's for some reason, I don't know if it's my keyboard or what, but this thing likes to move on the Z axis even when I'm not holding Z. So I'm going to just place these here, put this here like so, press A, link these together, and then I'm going to come over here and we'll link that together like that. We'll click on this. Now all of these are linked, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to nav mesh around this. So we're going to nav mesh around the sandbags, this way the NPC doesn't run through it. So like that. I'll drop one right here. There you go. Connect all of those together. And I'll quickly grab this. The NPCs aren't going to be running right up against the walls, so you don't really have to worry about too much of covering, you know, every edge of the wall. Just make sure that it's there further enough for them to reach the objects, like, you know, this couch I have right here and things like that. And like I said, the caves, you're gonna have to make adjustments because they can be a little bit weird. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to just put another point on here, on the edge of this, so I can move it down. Go. And once I have that, I can click this and that, as well as this, hit A, and they should all connect. Then I could click on this one, hit A, and now the nav meshing is around the sandbag rather than going underneath it, so that's perfect. Alright, and we'll just hit check, finalize. So nav meshes, hit save, and that's pretty much how you nav mesh around the objects and nav mesh in caves. Like I said, keep in mind, because the ground is so unleveled, that you want to keep the nav mesh closest to the ground. Doesn't have to be exactly on the ground, but you want to keep it very close to the ground. So, you know, caves are very slopey, so make sure you do that. I'll do it again right here on this point. Make sure you have this box checked right here, so you can actually select the edge of the line. As you can see, it's yellow right here. Now I click it, it's red, and when you see that, you just right click and you can add a point to it, and then you just hold Z, and that will allow you to bring the nav mesh closer to the ground, like so. Alright, it just makes it so much more neater in caves. If you're doing things like utilities and offices, you won't have to do it that much, but you will have to do it in the caves. Caves, in my opinion, are the hardest dungeons to make, which is why I wanted to make this standalone video of showing me just sculpting one. Alright, so with that being said, I'm going to jump ahead until we finish the nav meshing in this dungeon, and then we'll go from there.